In the density lab, you will be applying many of the skills that you've used in previous labs, such as measuring mass, measuring volume, and recording those measurements with correct sig figs. You will also be calculating the density of several substances, and you want to make sure that you show all of your work for the calculations and include your units for everything. Also, apply the rules of sig figs for your final answer whenever you calculate something. So for density, you will be taking the mass divided by the volume. Both are measured values, so you'll use the sig fig rules for dividing. When you calculate the average density of water, you'll be dividing by the number of measurements. That will not in fact affect your sig fig. So your final answer will have as many sig figs as the least value of your densities. All right, so this is the first lab where you're actually going to graph some data. So I just want to go over the directions to make sure you're clear about this. You're going to graph the volume of the water, so the milliliters, on the x-axis and the mass on the y-axis. And if you want to, you can use Excel and just upload that. But I also have graph paper here at the end of the lab that you can use. So you can either graph it in this position, or you can change it to a landscape orientation. It doesn't matter, but I want you to use as much of the graph as you possibly can. You also want to label the substance. So for water, you'll label it water, and you also want to label the x and the y axis. So for example, if you use it in this orientation, then the y-axis would be the mass in units of grams, and the y-axis, yeah, and then the x-axis will be the volume in units of milliliters. And each block has to have the same value, so you have to look at the range of your values. Your volume, what's the smallest, what's the largest, and your range, same thing for your mass. And then once you identify what your range is, then you can assign the values to these little boxes so that they're equal, and that's so most of the graph can be used. So that's going to take some time. You may graph in pencil. And then also, I want to point out that you do need to calculate the slope. Now, you don't have to put a line through your points. If you have Excel, you can, if you're familiar with that, you can do a best fit. But otherwise, don't put a line through the slope. I do want you to notice that it should be a linear relationship. As mass goes up, y should go up proportionately. When you calculate the slope, here's the formula right here. The slope is lowercase m y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. You can choose any 2 points that you like. And don't worry about sig figs for this, but do include your units. And once you get through the first calculations, then the second one will be way easier. Best of luck with completing this, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll be happy to answer any questions you have.